A terrorist from Tehran dying has socialists in Seattle crying and rockets in Baghdad flying. We're going to talk about World War III, or not, coming up on this episode of The Hot Zone.
This is The Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, Chuck Holton here. Thanks for being a part of The Hot Zone. We're into a new year, and I hope you had a great one last year, a good holiday. But look, everybody is talking about Quasem Soleimani and this guy, the chief terror master from Iran, being killed in Baghdad at the airport by U.S. drone strikes, and what that's going to do for the rest of the world. People are screaming and crying and gnashing their teeth and saying that this is going to lead to World War III. I want to talk to you about why I think that it won't. First of all, you have to understand that this was not an action so much as a reaction by the Trump administration to already being attacked by Quasem Soleimani and his forces. Soleimani was in charge of the Quds Force. He's also in charge of many of the provincial militia units that are in Iraq. These are Shiite, backed by Iran, that are units who are still in Iraq, like units like the Hashishabi and units like the Hezbollah. And these were units that had a function at one point. They were there to fight ISIS. Now they don't really have a function. And so they've been hostile to the U.S. and to our interests ever since the beginning. But back when we were all fighting ISIS, we kind of had some common cause with those guys, and we actually fought alongside them. As a matter of fact, I was there at the checkpoint in 2016, right outside of Mosul, when Quasem Soleimani himself showed up. And I have to say, that was a little bit awkward. We were told, do not take photographs, do not take video of this, or you will die. Well, that didn't last very long, and we actually ended up taking these videos that you're watching right now. Well, this military unit is made up of, like I said, it's Shia. You have to understand that Sunni-Shia divide. ISIS is Sunni, but Iran and the Iraqi government are Shia. And there's also something else that I think we need to talk about here, and that is, why would Donald Trump have chosen to take out Soleimani now? Well, first of all, there's the political aspect. He can claim that he took out one of the worst terrorists on the planet, bar none, and that's not even debatable. This guy is responsible for literally hundreds, if not thousands, of American deaths, hundreds that we know about for sure. I've seen the results of the explosively formed penetrators that took lives in Iraq over the war there. I've seen those explosively formed penetrators that were turned in before they got blown up that said made in Iran right on them. And so there is no doubt that Quasem Soleimani had a hand in killing lots of Americans. So there is the political aspect. We're going into an election year. Trump is going to be able to say, hey, Barack Obama might have taken out Osama bin Laden, but I took out Baghdadi, I took out his top lieutenant, I took out Soleimani, and many other terrorist figures in the first 4 years of my tenure. So that's going to play well with his base, and there's a good reason for him to do it. But I think that there was some other political ramifications kind of behind the scenes. I think if you read between the lines, what you're going to find is that the Iraqi government really was not happy with Soleimani being in their country, because he was pulling a lot of strings. They have a tremendous amount of control over the government in Iraq, and the government in Iraq would rather not be driven like a puppet by the Iranian mullahs. And so by the Trump administration taking these guys out, it wouldn't surprise me if there were not some back channel communications between the Iraqi government and the United States saying, oh, hey, here's where Soleimani happens to be right now. This is a guy that we've tracked for a long time, but he was always very careful about his location and knew that he was a big target. This guy was a legitimate military target. There's no two ways about that. A lot of Democrats in Congress are talking now like, we're provoking Iran, that this was an assassination of a government figure. Well, look, the United States has chosen to take the stand that we don't assassinate the heads of other governments. But that's not a matter of international law. That's a choice that we've made. That's a stand that the United States has taken, saying we are a moral nation. We don't want other nations. We're going to do unto others as we'd have them do unto us. It doesn't apply in this case. When you're talking about Qasem Soleimani, this is a military commander in a foreign country coordinating attacks against U.S. interests. He is a legitimate military target. There's no two ways about that. So the other thing is that when you look at what now we're seeing protests around the United States even, where U.S. citizens are saying, this is a terrible thing. How could we take out Qasem Soleimani? Number one, they didn't know who Qasem Soleimani was from a bale of hay up until he got killed, okay? But now, because Trump did it, they're upset. I guarantee you, if Barack Obama had dropped a bomb on Qasem Soleimani, these people would not be out in the streets right now protesting. You ask yourself that, really. Would they be? Do you think that any of these Democrats in Congress would be shedding crocodile tears over the fact that we took out one of the world's foremost terror leaders? No, they would be celebrating the fact if it had been Barack Obama who took him out. And by the way, Barack Obama dropped bombs remotely on more than 2,800 times in that region during his tenure. So don't tell me that this is something that doesn't have precedent. But listen to these protesters in Seattle crying about that Donald Trump is dragging us into World War III.
It's a provocation to war, and it's extremely dangerous, and anybody who wants peace has to stand up and say no at this time.
Okay, just to show you how ridiculous this is, again, let me just reiterate, these same people would not have been out in the streets if this was not Donald Trump. They're protesting Donald Trump. They're not protesting the fact that he dropped a bomb on somebody. Number two, Iran was already at war with us. So we're not provoking Iran. They were already provoked, okay? I mean, they were provoking us. This is like saying if a dog attacks you and he's in the process of chewing on your leg and you pull out a gun and shoot him, somebody says, oh, you shouldn't have provoked that poor dog. How many attacks have we seen by Iran over the last 12 months? How many freighters have been attacked? How many freighters have been taken over in the Straits of Hormuz? How many bombs have gone off that have been directly or indirectly traced back to Iran? Iran has been at war with the United States for a very long time. So we don't have to believe that, oh, now all of a sudden Iran's going to attack us. No, they were going to attack us anyway. The way it works in the Middle East is that the strong horse gets the support. By showing strength, what's going to happen is Iran is going to bluster. They're going to try and hack our websites. They're going to shoot some rockets at our bases, which, again, they were going to do anyway. There might be attacks on embassies. There very, very likely will be. There are protests in Pakistan. There are protests in Turkey already against this killing. They were going to attack us anyway. And these protests, big deal. What you'll find is that Iran is just like Iraq was. Do you remember back during the beginning in 2003, the beginning of the Iraq War? The things that Saddam Hussein said about America. If you attack us, it will be the mother of all battles, he said. If you attack us, you will bathe in your own blood, he said. And do you remember Baghdad Bob, his spokesman?
We crushed the forces in Saddam International Airport, and we cleaned the whole place of the airport.
This is a dog that barks a lot, but really doesn't bite so much. Keep in mind that Iran is at war, 3 proxy wars right now already. They're having a proxy war against Israel. They're having a proxy war against the United States. They're having a proxy war against Saudi Arabia. Do you think they want to get into a hot war with the United States? Do you really think because look, the mullahs want nothing more in Tehran than to stay in power. And do you think they believe that they will get to stay in power if they actually make some serious attack on the United States? They're always going to nibble away at us. And that's what you'll see more of in the days to come. You're going to see Iran nibbling away at America. They're going to toss a few bombs and bullets at us. They were going to do that anyway. Do you think Iran is going to, drop a nuclear bomb on the United States or on Israel or something? What do you think the outcome of that would be? Do you think they're that stupid? They are going to bluster. They're going to whine. They're going to complain. And in the end, our position is stronger as Americans because Donald Trump took a stand. I want to bring in and show you just some of the other analysis that has been done about this attack on Soleimani and what some of the experts from around the world think on both sides. Check this out.
We're looking to de-escalate and stabilize the situation. That's something that we've talked about with our European and our American friends. I spoke to the Iraqi Prime Minister just this morning, the Iraqi President last night, and I'll be reaching out to the Foreign Minister of Iran with that same message.
Well, I think it's quite obvious that any general can be assassinated when a rogue regime carries out such a strike. He was in the airport. He was at the Iraqi International Airport. He had just been received by Iraqi officials. But the U.S. regime, which knows no laws, which recognizes no sovereignty, decided to assassinate him.
It's not clear to me that President Trump has thought through all the consequences of this action. Trump likes taking these bold tactical military moves because he feels it makes him look macho. It's something Obama wouldn't have done. He thinks it'll help with his domestic constituency. I killed the head of ISIL, and now I've killed the Iranian mastermind of so many nefarious activities. However, one potential consequence could be that the U.S. troops are kicked out of Iraq, which would hand a victory to Iran.
Just as Israel has the right of self-defense, the United States has exactly the same right. Quasem Soleimani is responsible for the death of American citizens and many other innocent people. He was planning more such attacks. President Trump deserves all the credit for acting swiftly, forcefully, decisively. Israel stands with the United States in its just struggle for peace, security, and self-defense.
So look, the bottom line is this strengthens our position in the region, and it shows these entities, our enemies, that we will respond when we are attacked, okay? So that's not bad. I have to point out, though, that Donald Trump has wanted really bad to get troops out of that region, and now he's sending thousands of troops back into this region. Just go in the last 12 months, in February of last year, Donald Trump said he was going to pull troops out of Syria, and that caused a big uproar, and he ended up not pulling the troops out of Syria. When in October, Donald Trump did pull troops out of Syria, and that caused an even bigger uproar. Turkey and Russia rushed in to fill that vacuum. And so we sent troops back into the region. There are troops right now in Tel Tamer, where I was when I watched them pull out in October. They're back there now doing patrols. I'm hoping that he finally comes to his senses and sees that the only big friend that we have in that region is the Kurds. And the Kurds own northern Iraq. If we want to make Baghdad happy, if we want to let them save some face with the Iranians, I don't see why we would. But if we did, and keep our boots on the ground and keep from creating a power vacuum that will allow Turkey and Russia and Iran to rush in and fill it, then what we need to do is we need to keep a base in that region. Erbil is the place to do that. Erbil being in Kurdistan, northern Iraq, because the Kurds are our only real friends of that region. Can you imagine a scenario here where Iran said, let's provoke the United States, let's make it expensive for the United States. If we can overrun their embassy like happened in Libya, then maybe they'll pull out like the Obama administration did, and maybe they'll decide it's time to pull their troops out of there, so that we can make them create a power vacuum that the Iranians then can rush into. The Iranians would like nothing more than for the United States to leave that area. And I know many of you are saying, I'm so tired of having our troops over there. I'm so tired of this. We need to just pull out and let those people all kill each other and just forget about them. Well, That's not a good idea. And here's why. Because, look, number one, you ask any active duty American soldier, would you rather spend your entire 4 to 6 year term in the military sitting in garrison, doing nothing but training, or would you rather deploy downrange and go actually do something to further America's interests? And I guarantee you that our all-volunteer force, 99% of them would say, send me downrange. I do not want to end up back in the rear, guarding a concrete block, doing nothing but training for the Super Bowl and never getting to play. Okay? So don't feel bad for our troops who are deployed. They're doing honorable work. They're not being allowed to do as good a work as they could. They're not being given a good definition of victory. That's a problem that we need to address. But in the long run, our troops, we have plenty of troops who don't mind being in harm's way. So don't feel too bad about that. Number two, if we become isolationist, just go back and read your history. Look at what happened in World War I. Look at what happened in World War II. They won't not come for us if we pull out. They will just come find us in the United States. And, this is the thing that these protesters in Seattle and elsewhere just don't get. That here they are, these socialists, these communists, these Antifa types, whatever, they are on the side of evil. There's no two ways about that. Iran is bound up. They're affiliated with China and Russia. That's kind of the axis of evil in today's world. Iran, China, and Russia. You could say North Korea, but North Korea is a lapdog of China. So Iran, China, and Russia. Iran, China, and Russia were very recently in December doing military exercises together, conducting them jointly out in the South China Sea. So the question we have to ask is, if we drop a bomb on Quasem Soleimani, it backs up Iran's military capabilities, because Quasem Soleimani had lots of contacts, had lots of relationships that are not going to be reproduced overnight by the new guy that steps into his shoes. But at the same time, Quasem Soleimani, by dropping a bomb on him, do you really think Russia wants to go to war with the United States? Do you really think China wants to go to war with the United States? Russia, China, and Iran together, they don't want to go to war with the United States. It would be so costly for them. And Iran would essentially, go the way of Iraq. Okay. You remember the shock and awe campaigns back in 2003 in Iraq. We did that in less than 100 days. Iran doesn't want to go that way. And Russia is not going to come fight on their defense. It would take a lot to drag Russia and China into that. So are we looking at World War III? No. This is Donald Trump doing what a president should do, protecting American interests and making America's enemies pay when they hit us. That's what it is. So that's what I've got for you today, folks. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope you're getting a lot out of it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of it. I hope you'll share it with your friends. We're growing, and that's good because it means that we're going to be able to keep doing this. So I hope you'll come back again. We're going to have another episode on Wednesday, so stay tuned. I'm Chuck Holton, and this is The Hot Zone.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.